So here's what happens if you give anti-anxiety medications to Riley. We need to caveat all this by saying that Riley was experiencing normal, healthy adolescent anxiety as she was growing as a person. If she had something like generalized anxiety disorder, anxiety would be doing more than taking over the ship. You know the huge panic attack scene that was built up to through the entire movie? Imagine if she was having 2 of those a day for seemingly no reason. The entire gang is just trying to hang out in math class and anxiety's like, time to go panic attack mode, and everyone's like, what is actually happening? And the tornado just goes off. These are scenarios where we talk about saying, hey, maybe we should think about medications. But we don't treat anxiety with a single hammer. We have 3 different approaches. So we're gonna break down how it would look if we use a benzo, an SSRI, and therapy. When you take something like Xanax, I want you to picture putting a weight vest like this on anxiety. She weighs like 35 pounds soaking wet. So you throw one of these things on her and she's gonna be struggling pretty hard for a little bit. Or benzodiazepines act on GABA, which is a chloride channel. Chloride's a negative ion. So when you bring more negative ions into the cell or the neuron, it makes it more negative, which means it's harder to fire off. So it's like you're dampening the entire system at once. But these drugs don't discriminate. They just carpet bomb everything. So when Riley's in the throes of a panic attack, something like a weight vest or basically handcuffs is a great way to snap her out of it. The problem is if we rely on the weight vest every time anxiety touches the keyboard, this is what's gonna happen. Anxiety is gonna get freaking yoked. And we'll just need to get heavier and heavier weight vests to try to restrain her from the keyboard. This is going to get bad because anxiety is going to like the way she looks. She's going to get on gym talk. So now if we take the weight vest off, she will absolutely just destroy the console. We'll have to get heavier and heavier weight vests until we get to a point where we're at the max dose, and then still nothing is working because our coping mechanism was just waiting for anxiety to ramp up and then trying to put it out. If you wait until your kitchen is on fire every time, the only way you can turn off your stove is with a fire extinguisher, that gets old really fast. It should be an emergency. That's how we try to apply it. Okay, let's talk about what Prozac would do. SSRIs are complicated, not fully understood, but the best way to describe it would be like hypnotizing anxiety. She would become less interested in the keyboard, and it would take a lot more to get her to even pay attention to what was going on. Instead of redirecting her over to that chair where she's hanging out, she's just like, up to you guys, I don't really mind. And this could be a really positive thing if you were having panic attacks 6 times a day, but you don't want to overshoot the runway. Inside Out reminds us that anxiety is a good thing. So if you're not worried about that Spanish test anymore, there may not be things that are motivating you to get what you need to get done. And I want you to think of this hypnosis process as something that couldn't happen right away. It's not going to be an overnight difference. It will take weeks for the effect to settle in, for anxiety to build the habit of not always rushing back to the keyboard to try to control things. Now what happens if Riley goes to therapy? Let's go back to the scene where anxiety is causing all these imaginary projections to come out. When the imagination is this animation studio and she's telling him, think of all these hypothetical scenarios and pop them out into Riley's brain. It's referencing this idea that anxiety can produce thoughts, intrusive thoughts that are not your own, and you can learn how to rationalize through them. That's essentially what therapy teaches you to do. If Riley were to sit down with a therapist, they would reason through, are these imaginary projections realistic or are they unrealistic? And it'll be teaching Riley to fight against anxiety's different projections that she's making. This wouldn't reach into Riley's brain at all and affect anxiety. Anxiety would still be sending all the pictures into Riley's brain. Riley would just be learning how to deal with it better. That's actually why medications and therapy can be more effective, because it would be nice if we could hypnotize anxiety to pull her away from Riley, but also give Riley the tools she needs to deal with anxiety.